Hello there. My name is Ian, and welcome to my YouTube channel. So today, I'm once again joined by my friends Jonathan Cornell from Immersive Audio Album, and also Cody from Brockway's Vinyl Bites. How you guys doing today?
Doing Excellent. Good.
Awesome. So today, as the title of the video would suggest, we're going to talk about the new release of the Grateful Dead's Blues for Allah. And this is a Rhino standalone Atmos Blu-ray. Also includes 5.1 mixes, instrumental mixes, as well as some stereo bonus tracks. But the interesting thing about this release, of course, is that it's been mixed by Steven Wilson. And a lot of folks are kind of been like, wow, Steven liked the Grateful Dead? Like, that's not something that we would necessarily predict. But of course, you guys know that Steven's done Europe 72 as well as American Beauty for streaming. So I'm hopeful that sometime soon those come out on disc as well. But the reason why I've gathered my friends here today is because the Grateful Dead are a band that I've heard lots about over the years. One of my good friends, Taven, was a huge fan of theirs and would tell me about them all the time. But I just never got around to listening to them yet. So I decided to invite two experts. Jonathan, of course, an expert in the Grateful Dead as well as multi-channel audio, and Cody being just an overall Deadhead. So yeah, let's talk about this album. I think first, what would be helpful is maybe Cody, you could give us some context, some background on the release of this album. So Cody, set the scene for us.
Okay, so going back to. I'm going to go back even before American Beauty. I'm going to go back to when they were doing records like Anthem of the Sun and Oxomox, just to give a bit of a feeler out for kind of how they were, because they were mostly a live band at the time. A lot of people bought their studio records and were like, okay, yes, these are great, but the live versions of most of these songs is where it's at. So back in the late 60s, they would create the songs live and then bring them to a studio.
Mm-hmm.
It was a very different way of doing things. Like even if you listen to the Skull and Roses record going back to 1971, there's songs on there like Wharf Rat that were recorded live and actually never even got a studio version. And so that's kind of how they did things, because they felt that their strength was on a live stage. Fair enough. They started to change that idea when they would go into the studio with nothing and create records like Working Man's Dead and American Beauty, both in 1970, by the way, both in the same year.
Wow.
Which is that blows my mind. But anyway,
crazy.
Yeah, it's absolutely nuts. And so they would tour and do shows and stuff in between the release of the albums. But for these records is where they were like, okay, let's just go in with absolutely nothing and just create something, the 5 or 6 of us, whatever. So fast forward to 1974, they're like, you know what, we're kind of getting tired of the road life and doing that. So they went to Winterland at the end of 1974, and they did a couple of shows and saying, hey, we're going to be going on hiatus. We're not going to be doing any shows for a while. 6 months later, of course, they were back at it. But 1975 saw Bob move into his new home and create a new studio upstairs, which I've read from the Grateful Dead's archivist David Lemieux, who's also Canadian, also an Ontarian. He said, I went into that room 25 years after Blues for Allah came out, and the room was like 15 feet by 15 feet. It was very small.
Wow.
And they had all of this amazing technology and everything in there. And they recorded this amazing album in this tiny little room.
Wow.
But yeah, so they basically, for the most part, resorted to stop doing shows in 1975. Yes, there are a handful of shows like they did. I think it's at the Great American Music Hall where they actually did this entire album cover to cover. But for the most part, they weren't touring. They were doing sporadic shows here and there. They weren't doing full-on tours. So they holed up in Bob Weir's house for a couple of weeks in 1975 and recorded this basically upstairs in his house. And what a great album. I mean, good God, it is so good. But if you want to know more about that, I was talking to Ian and I was talking to you guys about this before. if you go on Netflix, for all the viewers, if you go on Netflix, there is a documentary called The Other One, and it's about Bob Weir, and it's about the Grateful Dead, but it's mostly about like his role in the band and what he did and his life after Jerry Garcia passing and all this sort of thing. And he talks at a pretty good length about what he was listening to, how they recorded this album, where they recorded this album. Like, he actually goes in pretty good detail about this record in particular, probably because it was the first one recorded at his home. For Grateful Dead, anyway. I think he did his Kingfish solo albums there as well, but for the Grateful Dead, this is the first Grateful Dead record done there, and it's very obvious when he says what they were listening to. He said they were listening to a lot of John Coltrane, a lot of McCoy Tyner, in particular with John Coltrane, because, as Bob said, he said Jerry was kind of the leader. And I, like, in the same way that John Coltrane was the leader and McCoy Tyner was the guy that kind of served up the background for him to build upon. He said, I wanted to listen to what McCoy was doing to be able to back up Jerry in such a fruitful way, if you will. And it really works on this album. There's a lot of jazz influence on this, more so than probably most of their other studio albums. King Solomon's Marbles, the title track as well, Blues for Allah. It's a really great album. Then, of course, you get other songs like Crazy Fingers and Help on the Way, Slipknot, which is very jazzy in itself. It's like you put that on and it's like you're just entering this room, like this sort of blacklit room, right? This smoky atmosphere, the incense is burning, you know, it's just that vibe, right? It's just
it's very mysterious, very mystical. It
just kind of drops you into this mellow but familiar, strangely familiar vibe. And I like the choice because this album starts off and it's pretty accessible. Like, from the first couple of minutes, it's like, okay, this is good time music. Like, I feel really at ease here. But that's smart because it slowly starts to unravel. And we're kind of getting into a review of the album itself here, which is fine. But when we head into Slipknot, like, things start to get a little bit, if you excuse the pun, naughtier. That's N-O-T-T. Naughty. But things start to get like kind of like Zappa or John McLaughlin-esque, especially in the guitar playing. But I love the way that this album starts off familiar, sort of with that kind of like funky groove, and then it slowly starts to stretch out. And by the time you get to the end of the album, I don't think you could stretch out any farther than they do here. But let's talk about the album itself here. Like, I just remember listening to it. It seemed like every track, like listening to it for the first time, every subsequent track was like, oh, that was better. That was even better than the one before. Oh, it just keeps getting better and better. And like I love the track Franklin's Tower. Yeah, a live staple. Oh, did they play that one live a lot?
I cannot wait for you to hear the Grateful Dead Go to Nassau Coliseum version of that song. It is amazing. It's great. You'll love it. And they really stretch it out. Yeah, it's a great song. That is a live favorite that was in the set list for a long time.
Even at the Dead and Company shows, they were doing it.
Yeah.
In fact, I was telling Ian this, but I remember during COVID, John Mayer was doing these like sort of Instagram sessions, like where he would show how he learned guitar parts. And he said that the part transitioning from Help on the Way into Slipknot, that like knotty, twisting guitar thing, was one of the hardest parts he ever had to learn.
Oh yeah, it almost sounds like a frip, like a fracture type thing. Yeah, it's pretty sick, and I just didn't expect that. I know we're kind of jumping around between these first 2.5, 3 songs, but I didn't expect it quite to go that way, and I was like, oh, they're kind of pushing me in a different direction that I didn't expect to go in. And I mentioned this on our group chat, so I'll mention it now. Jonathan asked me, what would you call this music? Is it prog? Is it pop music? Is it jazz? And my response was, well, I hear less Yes or Pink Floyd and more Frank Zappa. And it's like a more, to me, it's like a mellower Frank, that's stripped back a lot, but like I could see a track like Help on the Way, Slipknot, or even Franklin's Tower. Like I could see that fitting with Waka Jawaka. And some of the later stuff, like the title track, reminds me of a tune called For Calvin and His Next Two Hitchhikers.
I remember you said also you heard like a bit of like mid-70s Santana in
Yeah.
it too, which I think makes sense because they were also sort of going down that fusion-y mystical, with albums like Caravanserai or Welcome.
Well, I was thinking specifically, it was the King Solomon's Marbles sequence. And there's a track on Abraxas. It's Incident at, what's that
Incident
track
at Neshaber, I think it's called.
That's it. Yeah, that's what that made me think of.
Well, you know what's funny that you bring up Santana is because I did a video. I actually put out a video about this album on my channel, Brockway's Vinyl Bites, on the release day of the original album. So it was like the 50th anniversary deal, September 1st, 2025. We put it up, and it was myself, Matt Brown, and a fella called Steve Watt, and we actually talked about how this reminds us of Santana records like Moonflower and Self-Titled and Caravanserai and all that. So it's nice to see you guys saying very similar.
It makes sense, doesn't it? Because all that stuff was out at the same time. Like all these things we're talking about, Zappa, Santana, Mahavishnu. I mean, the content of the record, the influences make sense based on when it was released.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, even in a song like Crazy Fingers, there's kind of like a reggae thing going on. And like what was out in the mid-70s, Bob Marley.
Bob Marley, sure.
Yeah.
And the Police were just right around the corner too. Like
exactly.
That was coming. But a comment on Jerry Garcia's guitar playing. Like I hear the jazz thing. But like when I saw this title, I was like, I really hope that this leans into the Middle Eastern sound and the Arabic scales, and it definitely does. And that's another thing that makes me think of Frank, because he loved to combine those Middle Eastern modes with the American blues. And there is like this down-homey Americana thing that runs all the way through it. And I wanted to point to what's probably my favorite song on the album, which is The Music Never Stopped. And as soon as I heard those opening lyrics, it was like, because I grew up in a rural area, and I grew up fishing in the lake, and and talking about it's been hot for 7 weeks, and the fish are jumping and all that. It just like took me back to being a kid, and it's like totally that comfort zone thing. Like it's rare that I hear an album that's completely new to me that is like automatically a comfort zone, but that track in particular, like just took me back to my childhood in a very sweet way.
You'll dig the live versions of that one as well. That is one that legitimately never left the set list, I think, after they brought this album out. Like some tours, they had Franklin's Tower, some tours they didn't, but you're pretty much guaranteed at many of the shows that they did for the next 25, 30 years after this, all had The Music Never Stopped. And it's a great live jam. Like it's just a great vehicle for, that sort of good, like you were saying, that good time feeling thing.
Yeah.
Really expand on it and morph it into other songs, and great stuff. So good. But and the surround mix is amazing.
We're going to talk about that in just a second, but and I also would like to ask you guys about how it compares to the original mix, but we've got two other songs that we haven't yet touched upon. And when I said, I'm going to contradict what I said like 5 minutes ago. And the only song on this that reminds me of English Prague is track 6, Sage and Spirit. Because that is like, and I know I mentioned earlier that like the Robert Fripp thing, but this reminds me a lot of a King Crimson tune called Lady in the Dancing Water. Like just the arrangement of it, like the acoustic guitars and the flute tones. It's very beautiful, and it operates almost like an overture to the Blues for Allah suite. I'm guessing, did this open side 2, or did Crazy Fingers open side 2?
I think Crazy Fingers.
Yeah, Crazy Fingers.
Yeah,
Crazy Fingers did.
I thought you were going to say it made you think of like Steve Howe.
I could see that. Yeah. Yep, I could see that. And I was thinking Genesis too.
But yeah, the flute thing, I would say that definitely makes more sense to you think of a song like Lady Dancing Water or like Cadence and Cascade, that kind of thing. Yeah.
Yep. Ian McDonald. Yeah. And again, it really surprised me to hear just as a general comment, the horns, like the flutes and the saxes, that really surprised me. And there's a lot of really good keyboard playing. Like just to jump back to King Solomon's Marbles, like that's a keyboard feature, man.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, Keith Godchaux was one of the best. R.I.P. He was a great player, absolutely.
And his wife was in the band too, right? Isn't that Donna?
Yep. There's a band out on the highway.
She's just got a wonderful, soulful blues voice that, again, it fits that whole down homey thing. And there's this, like, I want to say cult, but it's more like a family. There's like this family vibe that I get from this music. Like everybody's just kind of together. And that's really, it's really endearing. But then we get to this final track on the album, the title track. And I think I read this quote both on the quad forums, as well as my friend Larry Shore, who I interviewed on this channel before. Go check it out. He's a photographer, and he actually did shoot the Dead. Like there's some mid 70s shots of both the Dead and Garcia's bands, but
pretty cool.
Anyhow, yeah, I'll have to show you guys that stuff. But anyhow, what I kept seeing was a warning. Was just so you know, Deadheads don't like the title track. Like, be ready. And when it came on, like, I loved it immediately because I love the whole atonal thing. I'm into avant-garde music and experimental music. But it's got this like strong spiritual thing. And I know it's blues for Allah. So there is this kind of sense of reverence. What I was afraid of at first was that it was going to drift into almost like a Moonchild sort of thing where it just kind of doesn't really go anywhere. It sets a mood, but it doesn't really go anywhere. But it actually ends up having some really, I think, beautiful melodies and ideas. And some of the guitar playing is really sweet. Like just in general, the tones on this album are great, but I especially love the guitar tones on the title track. So I was just wondering, how do you guys feel about that title track? Because here I am coming in as not really a Deadhead, just hearing this as a music fan. And I absolutely love it.
Well, the thing it made me think of is at their live shows, they occasionally do this piece called Drums in Space, which is like a sort of extended percussion, ambient sort of thing.
Freeform jazz.
Yes, freeform instrumental. Like it's like the acid drop section. Mm-hmm. And to me, like the title track is kind of like fills that space on this record.
Right.
Like we were saying, it's got a little bit of everything. Like you have a song like The Music Never Stops. It's kind of like a, funky, you have the jazz tracks, and then you have the sort of atonal, spiritual, ambient side. So yeah, I think it makes sense that it's on the record. It was never like a favorite for me on the stereo album, but I would say the surround mix makes it much more interesting.
Well, that's a good transition, I think, because we're going to talk about the new Atmos and 5.1 mixes. Now, I just listened to the Atmos mixes. Atmos mix. I did not listen to the 5.1 mix yet. But well, I mean, we can go. There's so many ways we can go about this, but go track by track. But what I noticed is that the Atmos mix really accentuates just how textured this music is, and it seems to take every little subtle nuance, and it's not like it like beats you over the head with it. It's still nuance, but it kind of positions it in a way that it's like, oh, I can really pick it out. Like, I think there's like some bells or something in one of the early tracks, and they're panning, all around.
Yeah, it's during the section where it goes from Slipknot into Franklin's Tower.
Right.
There's like a tambourine that moves around the top speakers. It's a fun little moment. Yeah.
It's very fun. And like, it seems like a lot of the times, like you were saying, you said Bob Weir's the guitarist. He's a lot of times positioned on the front left, and you get Garcia on the right. And then in the back, I hear like a lot of the keyboard tones. And it's interesting to me how the guitar tone choices and the keyboard tone choices are very complementary of one another. So it's a beautiful blend that you get, and it's subtle. Like you wouldn't necessarily notice it unless you're listening closely. And I like that.
One of the first things I noticed listening to it is in the song Help on the Way, the keyboard, which is in the back right corner, is basically playing the same melody as the guitar.
Mm-hmm.
And in the stereo version, it just sort of sounds like one part. Like they just sort of, the keyboard fills in part of the guitar, and
Right.
you can't even really tell it's two components.
Mm-hmm.
But when you hear it separated in the surround mix, it's like, whoa, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. It helps you understand how this music's constructed. Now, what I find fascinating, and this kind of leads into comparisons to the original mix, is I thought the bass on this is just absolutely massive. And I'm just not used to hearing that much bass response off of an album from the mid 70s. And I mentioned this to you and you're like, but there's no bass on the original mix at all, or there's hardly any. So how do you guys feel like this compares to the original mix?
I don't know. I mean, for me, I never felt like there was a lack of Phil Lesh on the original one, but it definitely does really stand out here. Mm-hmm. It's yeah, I mean, I'm one of these guys that has actually sat with the stereo mix of this a couple years ago with headphones on and a notepad.
That's helpful.
Headphones and a notepad, and just me completely alone, listen to this in headphones and just writing down everything that I could pick apart in the mix that was coming through it left and right. Yeah. And there was a lot there, even just in regular left and right stereo. And so when I found out that this was getting an Atmos mix, it just takes me right back to that night when I was doing that. And it's like, okay, this is going to be awesome in surround sound, because all this stuff that you can hear, you know, Donna's voice over here, then you can hear a tambourine over here and a little keyboard flourish over here and a bass run from here, you know, all this sort of thing. Now that really gets to get spread out. So I love the Atmos mix. The stereo mix was great, but having it even more expanded upon that in the Atmos mix is really awesome. And there's one thing that I forgot to mention about the history of this album, but it's pretty important to the creation of this record, is Mickey Hart. Mickey Hart had left the band because his dad was their manager, and he effed them for a lot of money in the early days, pre this. And so he left for about 5 years, and he came back during the creation of this album. And so a lot of that really percussive stuff that you hear on this album is Mickey basically making his return. There's two drummers. You got Bill Kurtzman and Mickey Hart. And so the way that they've placed Mickey in this mix, especially on stuff like King Solomon's Marbles, with his percussive stuff just basically going all around the room.
I was going to mention that.
Is incredible. Very good.
I was going to mention that because I was sitting at my computer here, and which I'm actually closer to my rear speakers, as you can see. And I had King Solomon's Marbles on, and I could hear it was like a triangle shape. Like I could hear drums, and I could hear, you know, it was like a centered drum up front, and then pan drums in the back. And I thought, man, this is like setting me right inside of his setup, his percussion setup. Two
drummers.
Yeah. So the way I heard it was the regular acoustic drums are in the front, and then the Mickey, like whatever those are, like timpani, congos, whatever, they're in the height speakers in the back.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like one of them is above you in the back and the other's in front. Super cool. But to your point about like comparing the original mix with the new one, like Cody, I wouldn't say like the old mix was bad by any means. But in the case of, like, we talked about American Beauty in the last video, where we were talking about what we consider the best surround mixes ever. And I would say the Steven Wilson Atmos mix American Beauty is still one of my favorites. And in the case of that record, like, I wouldn't say there was really anything to improve on by remixing it. Like, the original version of American Beauty is a fantastic sounding record. Mm-hmm. In this case, I do think the remix is better than the original. It's clearer. I do think there's more low ends. Yeah. Maybe part of the reason why is that I think in this case, the band like mixed it themselves, since it was kind of like an indie project. Whereas
I was going to mention that. Yeah.
I think Stephen Barncard, who did like the Crosby, Stills and Nash stuff, mixed American Beauty, or at least helped record it. So I think in that case, they were like in a professional studio. It was on a major label, which was Warner Brothers. So that would explain why, even though that record was older, the sound quality is a little bit better versus this one. But
They not only recorded it themselves, they released it themselves. This was under their own label. Yeah,
and I think that's
amazing.
that's part of the reason why they were able to get away with, you know, all these sort of interesting experimental things, because it was on their own label. I mean, it was distributed by United Artists, which was like a big label at the time. But funny enough, after this record came out, the next one, which I think Terrapin Station, they went to another big label, which was Arista, Clive Davis's label. And I think that explains maybe why they were trying to go for a more commercial thing, like with a producer on that record.
Shakedown Street. It's amazing, really, that like where you start in their catalog, it's a different sounding record than maybe where someone else would have started. Right. Anthem of the Sun sounds nothing like this. Well, maybe a little bit, but compare this to, say, In the Dark. Like they're very, very different sounding records.
In the Dark is the one with Touch of Grey, right?
Yeah. This is basically like two country folk albums here. Like these two records, this is very much them hanging out with the Crosby, Stills, and Nash guys. I mean, to the point where Gary was actually on Deja Vu. Mm-hmm. A lot of people don't know that he played the lap steel on the song Teach Your Children, but that's Jerry Garcia. And this is like very sort of country folk classic rock vibe. As for this, I can't categorize this, man. This is its own thing completely. Yeah. Just like this is so different from this, and they're only 2 years or a year apart.
But to sort of go back into talking about the surround mixes, I think this album for me is like right in the sweet spot where there are a lot of instruments, but there aren't that many. No. So there's kind of like just enough space for everything.
Right. Perfectly layered.
And you can tell exactly where everything is placed.
It's very tastefully done, like just from an arrangement standpoint.
The 5.1 and Atmos mixes are different.
Are they?
Steven Wilson, I think, is one of the last mixers who does a dedicated 5.1 first before kind of expanding it further into Atmos. So if you compare them, the way things are placed are somewhat different. One of the biggest differences I noticed is in The Music Never Stopped. You were talking about that Donna part, you know, there's a band out on the highway. In the 5.1 mix, her voice is in the back right corner and the sax is in the back left corner. So they sort of play off each other. It's really cool.
It's more like a quad mix.
In the Atmos mix, her voice is like elevated. It's mostly in the front right height speaker, and the sax is also in the height speakers. Yeah. So generally,
it's very different.
Comparing 5.1 to 7.1.4 for me, usually a lot of the things that were in the rear in the 5.1 mix are in the height speakers in Atmos, you know, like the Mickey's percussion in King Solomon's Marbles. Yeah. And then a lot of the harmony vocals, like in Crazy Fingers, you know, the Life May Be Sweeter, are in the side speakers. So it sounds like it's kind of like right in your head. So both mixes are good. I think you'll enjoy it no matter what you listen to.
This helps bring an album that I've heard tons of times, and it helps me be more aware of things that I've never heard in the mix before too. If you listen really close at the end of the title track, like within the last 10 seconds of it, you can hear two of them saying weird.
I was trying to figure out what I was hearing, because I heard like somebody saying something at the end there.
What I heard was them saying weird. Like, okay.
Did you notice in The Music Never Stopped? I mean, I didn't hear this in the stereo version, but starting in like maybe the second verse, there's a synth part in one of the rear speakers that suddenly jumps out, that it was like way buried in the original.
Oh yeah. And even some of the sax stuff that starts earlier on that you can't hear that much necessarily in the original version, they've really elevated it, and they bring it out here too. Yeah, I see what you're saying.
So it is true to the original, but there are like little moments where things are like sort of brought out slightly, just by virtue of there being more speakers and more separation.
And that's the genius of Steven Wilson. Hi, Kitty.
Hey, that's my little deadheads here.
That's the genius of the Steven Wilson surround mixes, is because he doesn't do what, say, someone like Nick Davis would do and completely replace parts
or compress the hell out of it
or compress the hell out of it, but take different vocal takes for whatever reason and replace them. Like there's just no need for that type of thing. Sorry, Nick Davis, if you're watching this, still love you. But yeah, like he just enhances upon what's already there, and he just expands the mix. He doesn't change anything. He just
Right.
turns up the knobs, makes it sound a bit more bright. Chicago 2 is probably the best example of this, where the original mix is very sort of, it's not that it's a bad mix. I mean, it's still a platinum selling album regardless. It's an amazing record, but
it's like super mid-rangey. Not a lot of low end, not a lot of top end. It's sort of all in the middle. On
now,
that
a question for you, Jonathan. You've of course interviewed Steven Wilson, and it was my understanding that he doesn't use any kind of EQ at all. Is that true?
No way. I'm sure.
Okay.
I think what he doesn't do that other people do is he doesn't use a lot of like bus compression.
Okay.
Like I think he does use a mix bus, and because of the nature of Atmos, it's a little trickier to do that. I think he certainly uses EQ. I mean, if you listen to the low end on this record and the difference between it and the old one, but generally, he doesn't use a lot of like mix bus compression, from what I could tell. So he kind of just he likes, generally his stuff is very natural sounding, which I think is part of the reason why people like his work. I mean, you mentioned the Nick Davis Genesis mixes; those are an example of records where I think there was a lot of compression added to them that maybe wasn't necessary.
Yeah, I mean, this is very
hit or miss.
Yeah, not that those are bad. Some people don't like them. I don't hate them. I love the 5.1 aspects of what he did, but just the fact that Steven doesn't change anything in the mix. Like, if you listen to the Mama or Dancing with the Moonlit Night, there's little vocal ad-libs here and there that are different than what you heard in the original mix. And it's like, Steven Wilson, as fine as that is, it's great, whatever. This is different. Steven doesn't do that. He just takes what's already there and he enhances the thing. He brightens it up. He gives it a bit of a facelift, but he doesn't change the actual mix. He doesn't take parts and switch them out, and this is exactly as you heard it. It's just more apparent. It's brighter. It's more lively.
I mean, I was talking to someone else about this recently, but it's always interesting when these older records from the 60s or 70s get remixed, and sometimes you're kind of like, well, the sounds are what they are. Like, it basically sounds the same as the original. I think like Steven's mix of Who's Next is a good example of that. Like, it was recorded really well to begin with. I wouldn't say there's like a major increase in clarity over the stereo version. I mean, it's cool to hear it in surround with all the parts separated out. I mean, another example of that is American Beauty. But in the case of this record, like, it sounds like it was recorded yesterday. Like, it's spooky.
Yeah, it does.
I mean, there are modern recordings I've heard, like, done recently that don't sound as good as this.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah. You're right. And there's a couple that you can't really tell. Like the Gentle Giant albums are done so well that when he does the remix, it's largely for the surround sound experience, right? Because the original mix is easily as good as it's like the original mixes of those still hold up, right? They just sound awesome. And so, I mean, he still did a great job remixing them, but they already sounded fantastic, as to where they probably didn't require as much of a facelift as some others might. And, like I said, Chicago 2, the original mix is still good, but to me, that's a record where the difference is night and day. As to where if I was to listen to his mix of Freehand versus my original one, Freehand might be a bit brighter, but still it's like, okay, well, these two are pretty close.
I would also point to Aqualung as being an album. And I feel like that's the one that kind of put him on the map in terms of being the guy to do this sort of thing, because Aqualung, the cool thing about Aqualung is that you may have mistaken it for a poorly recorded album prior to his mix, but when he mixed it, he revealed that, hey, actually this thing was recorded pretty well, and you get to hear what's there. Now, would you guys say that the leap from this original mix to this Wilson mix is the same as Aqualung, or is it a little bit closer?
I wouldn't say it's as big as Aqualung. Another one that's a huge difference is Gentle Giant's The Missing Piece. It's like, is this even the same recordings?
Right.
I would say this is sort of somewhere in the middle. Like, there is an appreciable difference, but it's not like night and day. Like, holy crap, is this the same record?
You took the words right out of my mouth.
Yeah.
Yeah, everyone in the world needs to go buy this.
Yes.
Only 3,000 copies, right?
Yeah, and that's something else to mention is that it's sold out on rhino.com, I'm pretty sure, but you can get it from the dead.net. So order it direct. And in your case, you ordered it from somewhere in Canada, right?
Yeah. This is the Grateful Dead gone prog. So like this is always kind of one of those records where it's like you don't know the Grateful Dead and you're into prog, Vandergraaf Generator, you're into all these other bands.
Even jazz.
Or even jazz, yeah, Miles Davis, etc.
Yeah.
It's like, okay. I knew with Ian when you were like, oh, I don't really know the Grateful Dead that much. You got to hear Blues for Allah. That is the entry point for you. It's a different animal, but I know what you're into, especially doing the Can You Dig It shows. That this is the right place for people, and a lot of people who watch our channels are into progressive rock. And a lot of those people are kind of unaware of the Grateful Dead, so this is a great place to go. And whether even if you just get the standard CD edition or the Blu-ray Atmos that's upside down, it's absolutely worth owning.
I was going to say as well, the Atmos and stereo Steven Wilson mixes are on streaming. So if you want to sample it before you buy the Blu-ray, the option is there as well. But like Ian was saying before, like if you know nothing about the Dead, like don't be scared away. Like it is pretty accessible, especially the first side.
Yeah.
So I highly recommend.
Well, that's 3 out of 3.
I have one question.
What's that?
For Ian, because you're new to this album, how would you rate this record?
You mean like give it like a 5-star rating or?
Yeah. Based
well,
on
it's hard to say because based on what's that?
Oh, just based on your opinion, like what you felt about it overall.
Well, it's kind of hard to say because I first heard this record 3 days ago. So it's kind of hard to say, where it's going to sit in over time. But at the moment, every time I hear it, I like it better. So it's a 5 out of 5 for me. 5 shovels, as our friend Kevin would say. Because I do intend to listen to it again.
One more point I'll add is we talked about that there are Steven Wilson Atmos mixes of American Beauty and Europe 72 on streaming services. And there's also a Mickey Hart Atmos mix of Working Men's Dead. So if this sells out, you're letting the people at Rhino know they should make more Dead Atmos Blu-rays. So Rhino, if you're watching, we want those other titles on Blu-ray.
Oh, I was just going to say really quick, I have the original DVD that Mickey Hart did of this album on 5.1 like 20 years ago. And it's good, but it could use an Atmos DVD mix for sure.
I was just going to say, as a total novice here, like I think I would buy, sight unheard, we'll say, I would buy copies of Europe 72. Like if that came out on Blu-ray, I'd pre-order it because just based on this, I would like to hear what they sound like live, and I would like to hear what Steven would do with it, because that's one thing that I really like about a Steven Wilson remix. And take like the announced Frankie Goes to Hollywood disc. Like to me, it's like I'm probably not going to get it, but I think I probably would enjoy it because Steven only works on stuff that he likes. So the mixes that he chooses are curated. And that I know he's going to do an excellent job. I know it's curated by somebody I trust. So whenever he does something, I'm more likely to take a shot at it.
This was released on the same day as his Atmos mix of Phil Collins's No Jacket Required, which, two records that could not be more different. And yet he did a great job on both of them.
I haven't heard that one yet. I got to get that. I can't wait for that. I absolutely love Phil Collins.
Let me pose you a question, Cody. If you could pick any Dead record to get an Atmos mix, which would you choose?
That hasn't already been done?
That hasn't already been done.
Oh my God. This one, because it's just mad. Like as Tara would say, this is just a pretty crazy record.
Which one is that?
Eoxo Moxoa. Sorry, it's not very clear in the camera here, but it's called Eoxo Moxoa. So it's the same backwards.
It's a palindrome, like Notlob. That's a Python reference.
Either this or I don't know. Can I give 3?
Sure.
Sure.
I want to get this one, Skull and Roses or Live Dead.
I wonder what the like multi-tracks would be for Live Dead.
So,
I guess they had them for Europe 72, so.
So Live Dead would have been one of the first records to be recorded on a 16-track machine.
There you go.
So that would have been like way early on, like 1969. It was recorded at the Fillmore, and just having that, especially with the way, like with the Dark Star on side one of that, and the big gong noises and everything. Imagine that just panning around the oof. Yeah.
Yeah, I think mine would be Terrapin Station, especially that second side long track with all like the brass and strings. Would be crazy.
Even if they just did side two, side one is great, but you're right. Even if we just got to hear a taste with side two, would be like a dream.
I mean, side one's killer. Also, like "Dancing in the Streets" is a great song. We were talking about Donna's voice. She has a solo feature on side one. There's a song called "Sunrise," I think it's called. That's really nice.
It's been a while since I've heard that, but yeah, you're right. It's good.
After that, Anthem of the Sun would be wild.
Yeah. Okay, all of them.
Do the whole catalog.
I read when Steven Wilson did it, because about 4 or 5 years ago is when he did this one, and I was like, yes, when he did this in Europe 72. It's like, Steven is a Grateful Dead fan. This is awesome. And he said at the time that these were to be part of a broader project, and then we just heard nothing for 4 years. Or 3 years, whatever it was.
Funny enough, did you see when he posted on socials when this was announced? He said that the Blues for Allah mix was actually done before the Europe 72 and American Beauty one. So this it's been sitting around for a while. He said he did the stereo and 5/1 mixes in like 2019 or something. So it makes you wonder what else he's worked on and what things are waiting to be released.
Because it's up to the artists and the labels. Like,
right.
Yeah.
But like, one of the things I keep thinking of is Jonathan and I are working on this quad mix video, and you'd be surprised how many of these great quad mixes are like, oh, that was unreleased until 2015 or something like that. Mm-hmm. And it just makes you wonder, like, why are these record labels spending the money and not releasing them? Like, that's just really strange.
It is strange. It's weird, but hey, at least we're getting them.
We got it, sure. and on Blu-ray, so
and on physical media, because like you guys said, like, even though Apple Music is lossless streaming in stereo, it severely cuts like the bass frequencies on Atmos mixes, and certain things sound great. Like when I first got my Atmos system and I didn't really have any discs to listen to, I was listening to Electric Ladyland on streaming, and I was listening to the Doors catalog. So some things do sound absolutely great. Now, both of those have been announced for physical media. So I'm looking forward to seeing if they sound any better, as I'm sure that they will.
And the fact that they're doing the Doors and Electric Ladyland, even though those mixes have been up on streaming for years, like the whole Doors catalog went up in 2022, I think. So that gives me hope that they will eventually do Europe 72 and American Beauty, even though those mixes have been around for a while.
Yeah, for sure.
Well, there's probably data on that. Like they can see, like, wow, look how many listens this has got. Well, okay, we'll put this out.
And most of them come from my basement here in Canada.
Rack up the streams, people.
Cody, we're counting on you.
Oh, no worries, man. Just one more go through that morning dew at the end of Europe 72. And I want to say thank you for having me on today.
Anytime, man. Hey, when we were talking about doing a Grateful Dead review or discussion, I was like, there's no way I'm doing this without Cody, because he's the man for this stuff. So I appreciate you coming today.
It's always great to see you two fellas. Always.
Well, hopefully we'll be back in a couple months talking about American Beauty.
Yeah.
Maybe.
So.
I could do that right now, man. There's only one skip track on this album, and you'll know it when you hear it.
Well, guys, I want to thank you for joining me today. This has been lots of fun. And let's hope to do it again soon. And for you viewers at home, make sure you go and check out immersiveaudioalbum.com as well as the Immersive Audio Albums YouTube channel. And don't forget to check out the 7 different things that Brockway's Vinyl Bites offers, from the radio shows, the record store, the YouTube channel. Okay, that's 3. But what else do you do, Cody? Tell us real quick. What else do you do?
Well, I do 2 radio shows. I do one on Deep Nuggets Radio every Thursday night at 8 p.m. Eastern.
Mm-hmm. It's a lot of fun.
And then I do one joint show over on Prog Radio every Thursday afternoon at 12 noon Eastern. That's a joint show with my lovely fiance Tara of Spin in Prague here on YouTube, where we pick lots of amazing progressive rock music to play, and sometimes I slip the Grateful Dead in there because I can. I do Brockway's Vinyl Bites on YouTube. We do album reviews, we do music discussions, we do top 10s, we do rankings, we do discussions. I do drum covers, I do guest features. Ian, I don't think I've had you on yet, have I?
Only once. I did the what was it, a game show or an album war or something like that.
That's right. Well, it just means that you 2 guys have to come on. And I haven't had Jonathan on yet. You guys got to come on and
next time you do Tall or Zappa, I'm your guy. Or okay. Rush. I'll do Rush.
I know that you're very much like me in that you have a very expansive, eclectic taste in all of this music. So yeah, we do everything. I've got a record store, Second Chance Records, 20 Argyle Street North, www.secondchancerecords.ca. We ship everywhere in the world for a flat fee of $20. So even if you're in the States or in Istanbul, it's
not Constantinople. Istanbul.
Just everywhere, you get the gist. And thanks for having me on. It was a pleasure to see you guys.
Yes,
always a pleasure, Cody. And Jonathan, always a pleasure. See you again real soon, because we got some stuff coming up soon. And for you guys at home, thanks for watching, and catch you later.
Hi.